Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's time for the Cotoneaster. Here we are. It is March the 6th of 2021 and spring has sprung. It's trying to. We got 60s in the forecast, so there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of challenges to this time of year because we're playing that, what we call affectionately in the Minnesota Bonsai Society, as the Bonsai Shuffle. Trees in the cold frame, trees out of the cold frame. Most people would say just keep them in the cold frame until we know spring is here. It's so hard for us in the upper Midwest to do. We so badly and desperately want to work on our trees. A word of caution, just be careful and continue to experiment. I'll be careful. I'm going to repot my Cotoneaster, but then I'm going to put it right back in the cold frame. I don't want this kind of sun for the next week to just bake this new growth. Since it's been inside the cold frame, it's not quite used to this sun yet. And it won't go below freezing for almost a week. But then in the long-term forecast, we might get some mid-20s again. So maybe the roots will stay at about freezing, but then this could be damaged, right? So we're gonna be super careful. So before I dig into this, I got a little tour of the yard to show you. Just showing you a little bit about what this busy sunny weekend is like for me here, kind of taking a peek at things and starting to move things around. Let's look at that first. And the first thing is my workbench right behind my garage that doesn't get full sun because it is a north-facing garage, back part of it. So the sun's still blocked right now. So this is one of my work areas. So up on top of the back bench, I have some trees that are all Minnesota hardy that I'm not worried about. I got the larch there. That's gonna be just fine. I've got some of those willow cuttings high up so the mice don't eat them. And there's a Scots pine. And then we got a couple of, we got a juniper there and a version of an arborvitae. So they're just up here because they're Minnesota hardy and they were super, super cold with the cold frame challenges I had. And now I've been moving them outside when I know it's not going to get too terribly cold and they're going to be fine anyway. So we don't want our trees to go, you know, thaw, freeze, thaw, freeze, thaw, freeze, so drastically anyway. So I've kept them here where the temperature in the daytime, this side is all shaded. You can see it's still snowy and hard snow on there. I've shoveled some of this off so I can work on this sooner. But this is not going to be 45 in sun all day. It's going to be no sun and maybe in the upper 30s. So the temperature changes will be minor. As we come down to the garden, you'll notice I've been a little busy putzing around already today. So I've got some snow piles on some of the trees. One of my biggest concerns was my larches that I dug up last year and harvested. So the larch back there is one of the trees that was not protected as much with the leaves. Actually, it's loose and I was able to get it out from the frozen solid bottom. And when I lifted that tree up, it's super light. So if it's super lightweight, that tells me that it's probably a little dry as well. So making sure that I have some water for that larch to, the snow to melt in there, nothing like natural water from trees up top on the bench there. I brought my great big lilac out there. Again, high because if you recall a few episodes ago, I had some critters chewing on those things. So hopefully high up, no bunnies are gonna get it. And I think the mice have plenty to chew on now. They're gonna be good. And then I have some bayberries, barberries. The barberries are from my father's house. They didn't want them anymore. And those have been in the ground for years and years and years. And so I'm going to see if they've survived. I have them mainly in some pumice and lava rock and some of the soil it came in, just in some pots that I had laying around. We're going to tackle those barberries this spring and see what we can do. So now that they're up on the bench though, they've been here in this garden getting all that sun naturally. They're going to continue to dry out and go do the freeze thaw thing. And so if it gets super cold, I might want to be careful, but I think it's going to be fine here. Most of the lows will be into the 20s, and so I think I'll be mostly fine, especially with these hardy trees and these great big pots with some natural soil in there. we'll keep an eye on them. But what we'll definitely have to do is make sure that we keep it moist. One of the things I've learned the most in the last couple of years with my garden here and trying to keep trees, Minnesota hardy trees out here, down low from the wind, we got the wind barrier here, is that if I'm not careful, they're frozen in the ground still. I can't move any of these pots except for that one larch I was talking about. And as soon as you can start moving them around, well, things are thawing out all the way around that pot, which means it's drying out inside as well. And so you have to make sure you don't let things dry out. I lost a bunch of junipers last year that were leftover junipers from an MBS function, and I killed all of them. I just don't think I watered them in time. And so they dried out completely, the roots had damage, and they just died. So make sure that when you're peeking at your trees this spring, make sure they're staying moist. So I get this other huge barberry bush that was at my dad's place. And it's tall, lanky, almost literati style. I'll see if I get any back budding. This was a free tree, so we'll see what happens. But if you'll notice real close down, we got ice down there. It's gonna let me zoom in on that there, right there. Huh? We got ice down there and water now melting. So this thing is gonna be moist and wet for quite a long time, so I won't have to worry about that one. But then these guys back here, some extra protection against the wind with this fence back here. I had some fencing up here to keep the bunnies away, but there's been some movement, and I think some bunnies got a little activity on some of these branches. Can't wait to see what those guys do. A couple back there. So, springtime. Everything wants to get going now, especially bonsai enthusiasts. So some snow on the lilacs there, the barberries from the back. Yeah, super exciting time. So I'm set up over there to maybe work on one of my trees from the cabin cold frame. We have some Cotoneasters to contend with, but before we do that, let's head over there. Let's take a peek at the cabin cold frame, which you see I have open because it's just getting too warm in there. Need some fresh air. Let's go check it out. The upper pond, got a nice layer of water there. I bet you we're going to be shoving through that by the end of this weekend or when it hits 60 on Tuesday. No goldfish going in there quite yet. I was able to dig my Siberian elms out of the ground from my storage area. So there are the Siberian elms. And look at that thick forest. I'm so excited to work on that too. So that was from a friend from the MBS organization I belong to, Minnesota Bonsai Society, and he's getting rid of some plants. So I got enough for probably 3 forest plantings there. Either keep it in one big one, 2 medium-sized ones, or 3 smaller ones. So we'll take that out of the soil this year, look at all the root structure, look at the plants, and see what I want to do. Here's a close-up of one of the Cotoneasters still in the cabin cold frame. And as you can see, all those buds are continually wanting to pop. So I do want to do some repotting of those Cotoneasters. My willow in the log there, my shimpakus, Cotoneaster, 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 trident maple there. Yeah, got some cuttings back there that I don't know if from a yew. My taxus, we'll see if any of those take. Those are from early in the year last year. Some more junipers down below. Plus an azalea. One of my azaleas that I'll have to actually pull out right now and take a peek at. This is the time of year for azaleas. A lot of people will repot their azaleas in March, some even in late February. If I repot this, of course, it's going to go back into the cold frame. But this has got a little bit of a story to it. So, this right here was probably twice the size it is now. But right under here, we got a big little chop right there. A big little, does that make sense? A big little chop? Well, that's a chop right there. But it didn't come from the hands of a critter. It didn't come from the hands of its creator. It came from the hands of the kids. Yeah. Hit by a football. And so this tree that was about another third in girth or tallness, maybe twice this size, was kind of snapped in half about 2 years ago. We're trying to keep it alive and seeing what it'll do. It's got some really crazy roots going on. So I'm going to repot this year and try to spread out these roots and see what's going on. And we'll get to that one here pretty soon. But first, I'm really excited to tack that a Cotoneaster. So let's get to work. Lots of things to consider during a spring that's here now, but we don't know how long it's gonna stay. So in my backyard, I'm facing west, so the sun is off to my left, and that left eye is really probably gonna start watering pretty soon because it is bright out here. But let's take a peek at the temperature right now at record time, at film time. Let's see, we are literally at coming up on 1 o'clock, and we're at 46 degrees. My cold frame was at 45 degrees when I left it. So 45 degree cold frame, the roots maybe between 45 and 50, the air temperature 46 with some sun. We're gonna be safe to work on this tree right now, which is kind of cool. These were a nursery find. Every time I go to the nursery, I probably should go there more often. But when I go to my favorite local nursery, I look for the discount section almost 90% of my searches. I don't really pay attention to the other stuff. I'm in that experimental mode where I want to get all kinds of bigger trees at discounted prices that are still looking viable and ready to do some possible things in bonsai. And these guys, there had to be 30 or more. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look at the show I did on these where I got a whole bunch of nursery find material. But they were $7. So I went and bought like 6 or 7 $7 Cotoneasters. Look, there's even a berry. You're never gonna be able to see that with my flannel shirt. But there's a berry right there. I don't know if you can see that red berry. There it is, right there. There's a berry left over in this one. So this guy right here is the Autumn Inferno and turns a brilliant, the reds and oranges and fall colors. Absolutely gorgeous tree. I just can't wait till this fall to see what this is gonna look like. There we go. Moist, a little moist, not bone dry, which is good, but dry enough where I think this will start to come apart pretty easily. I still can't find my rake. I'm probably gonna have to do a plant room clean where I can find my rake, because I'm not sure where it is, where it went to, because that would make this process a little bit faster. But I gotta keep in mind, we don't want to go speedy with bonsai. But this day is one of the most exciting days of the year because it's the first day that I get to look at a tree, work on a tree outside in my backyard. Super exciting. So we got some pine bark in here, a lot of pine bark being sifted through. We've got a lot of roots in here. This has been in a pot for a little while. You can see the roots there. There's some bigger ones. Look at this guy. Right there. That's as big as this chopstick. Yeah. So we'll be cutting that one back, I'm sure. One of the amazing things about taking some nursery finds, I don't know if the word amazing is the good word, but it can be unnerving because you never know what you're gonna get, but it's also super exciting because you never know what you're gonna get. Hi, Milo. Look at that. What was that doing in the pot? One of the nice things too about repotting this one today, I might not get to the other 4 or 5 Cotoneasters for a good couple of weeks. And I just saw that the top layer on here was getting a little dry, but the bottom layer was still a little moist, but certainly not real damp and sitting in water. So I'll be able to give my trees in the cold frame a good watering today and know they'll be good hopefully for another couple of days to a week. You never know what's in that pot, so when you open up one tree from its nursery pot and see that, that's super, super nice. So there's that big long root there, right? So unless I'm gonna go a root over rock, that's not gonna be needed at all. But look what that took off. So be careful when you're taking off some of these early roots if you want to keep something higher up. But I know I'm going to be good to take off a good chunk of these roots right now. This tree has a really full root structure. And we're going to thin this out in more ways than one. From the bottom for sure. We're going to spread out the roots to get a good radial root pattern. And then we're going to kind of see what kind of pot we're going to end up in. But we're at the point where we can start making some decisions. And I say decisions because I have no idea what this tree is going to be as far as a front or a back. Long term. What's nice about having 5 of a species at low prices, like I told you, is I can experiment a little bit, I can try a few things, I can make a few mistakes, and not be quite so petrified that things are going to go terribly wrong. Now, of course, after I say that out loud, I don't encourage reckless behavior. The challenge with this tree is it's got a lot of other roots going over it. It's got this root climbing over it. It's got this root climbing over it. These roots back here, boy, they all are twisted and gnarly. But look at that fun movement in that trunk. It's just kind of got this whoomp, kind of cool. And if I were to do something like this, and it's like windswept, that's kind of cool. So I got a couple really nice main branches. Will I keep them both? Will I keep? Who knows? Who knows? But the root structure is what I want to make sure I pay attention to here for this first repot. Keeping in mind that bonsai is a slow process, and we're going to be working on this over the next, couple decades, right? And it doesn't have to be a bonsai tree tomorrow night. It doesn't have to be a bonsai tree by the official first day of spring or next year. Look at that, goes right through that root structure. That root, it's almost like an aerial root right there. That one might come completely off. That guy right there. We'll see. And as a matter of fact, as I dig down below some of this, if some of this peeled up nicely, this almost could be a candidate for a root alongside a rock. Maybe not a root over a rock completely, but a root beside a rock. And the reason why I say that is because of this massive curve here. It wants to go this way, right? And there's nothing underneath here. What if I embed a rock right there? What if I put this rock right here? And then this thing looks like it grew around it, right? That's the artistic part of bonsai that only can happen with you yourself, what you like, what you think. We can always go with the fundamentals of bonsai in and around that rock, in and around that fancy pot. When people put trees on slates, that's not a pot, it's a slate. But how artistic is that? How beautiful. I can't wait to have my first slate that I can put a forest on. I look forward to that. So, bending some of the rules, making up some of your own, that's kind of how I believe bonsai should be. As long as we keep a lot of the fundamentals still there and intact. We still got some pine bark in here. I think I just saw a rock fall out of here. Rock from the nursery. Not really helping the root structure too much, and certainly not helping the balance of oxygen and water. But that's what we're repotting it for. We're going to get the balance of oxygen and water because of our control. All right. Big clump of roots down here. I got a couple thick ones sticking out right there. There it is right there. Kind of curves around. I won't go shorter just yet on that one. But my main focus right now then is to get a flat bottom. Alright? So any of these things that are growing straight down, we're going to want to get rid of. We want our roots to grow out to the sides of the pot, not down in the pot. Which also means it's really good to have shallow pots. That's why shallow pots, when you're ready for them, are good for your tree, because all these roots that you see, this is a nice little mat of roots already, right? That hasn't even been in a bonsai pot, and look at how nice and flat and spread out that is. Very radial in nature. Look at that, goes all the way around. So this is a pretty good shape, a tree in pretty good shape. Now, the roots are gnarly. I have to keep saying that. They're kind of all over the place down here, these big ones. So we're either gonna cut a few off, think about a rock underneath here down the road, maybe even this potting of it. There's a root right back here. This root right here. It has no fine roots on it. I'm just gonna take that off. Get the concave cutter in there. There's kind of a clump there that's kind of big and gaudy and just like it was old material. So there, I just cut that smooth. And I don't know if that's gonna be the front or back of the tree. It might become the front. Looks like there was a possible stump right here that broke off and is healing over nicely. There was a branch right here that's broken off. I'll cut that a little closer in with my concave cutters. We'll get some healing there. Kind of a really lopsided callus, if you will. So we just cleaned up that side. So that little root that was sticking out was doing nothing, but now look, my finger can go down in there. So most of the roots are going this way, and then there's a section that go this way. Time to look at a few pots and see if I have big enough ones here to even consider. Good old ceramic rectangle. The foliage is going to come back a lot, right? Doesn't fit in that pot. This one might be a little bit too small. So I gotta... It's kind of a cool black pot. I like this one. This has potential. It's actually shallower than that one. But if I stuff all the roots in there, I'd have to trim a little more roots to have some room for the roots to grow. But look at this great long length here of this root structure, right? It's like leaning over this way, then it does this whole big turnaround towards you guys. But it fits this lengthy pot better, right? Has that nice flow from this side going up here, then curving back. I like this pot. This is a contender. Got that mustard color right now against this lime green new growth. Interesting pop of color. I love the pot. It's got really gorgeous feet. Got some nice textured feet there. Nice design, super nice pot. Don't know if this is the tree for it, but again, with that angle of this tree, it really works. So I'm looking for a long oval shape, perhaps. Yeah, that's such a pretty pot, but it's too shallow. My tree isn't ready for that quite yet. I'm just repotting it in a bonsai pot for the first time. That's asking too much, I think, of the tree and the pot right away. And that'll be the same for this one. Kind of a neat ceramic pot. Again, the longer, wider pot is going to definitely be nicer, I think, for this tree. These leaves will really pop nice against this cream colored pot, but it's too shallow, I think. I'll barely get any soil in there and everything will be exposed, and I'd have sphagnum moss humped up to here, and it's just a little bit too shallow. The bottom of this pot has that nice light tan color, so it kind of pops off the ground a little bit there. And these really light green leaves go really good against this black, makes them pop. And then think about this tree in the fall. So remember I told you that this is going to have really dark reds and oranges against this dark black. Could be very, very cool too. Very rich in color. Kind of nice. This is still my top contender, but I did find some other pots. This is one of my mica pots. This is probably just too ginormous, and it is. You see how big that is? Although it would provide a lot of growth. This is a bonsai tree that's of course, in the developing stage. This is the first time it's coming out of a nursery pot, so we want it to just grow out and see what's going to happen. I mean, I'll make some cuts today, but we want it to grow out and thrive. So this wouldn't be horrible, but it's just a little too big. I don't want it quite that big. Right now, with the tree completely untrimmed, it looks okay in there. So if I cut it back and it grew out by the fall, it would look pretty nice in here. If this was one size smaller on this mica pot, I know this isn't mica, this is just one of those more industrial plasticky ones. So here's just your run-of-the-mill plastic training pot. So this is just a little bit bigger than the square here. It's about an inch deeper, but the same left to right. An inch front to back. So it's not, of course, as pretty of a pot because it's a plastic training pot. But the size right here is probably, for my money, the size is pretty ideal. It's got room to grow. I don't have to cut any more roots off, and we can just put it in there. So that's a contender. But I sure would love that ceramic one, right? And then I also got two ovals because I like the oval shape of that one. Now the risk of my oval pots is they're awful thin. Again, we're looking for thin to make those roots grow out, not down. But that fits in there quite nice. This is the smaller of the two though. What if I give it a little more room to breathe? What if I go like that? So even though it's a shallower pot, I can put more soil around the rim here for it to reach out to. I can get enough soil over the top of it to cover all these roots. This one wouldn't be quite as much. I think it'd be mounding it too much in here. You see how it's covering all the area in there? The spaces are all limiting, really. So this one I think is too small. I really think that's a pretty decent look. I'm gonna go with the oval. It's a little bit narrower than this guy. Or shallower. Sorry, it's shallower, right? By about a half an inch to an inch. But that would just be soil in there, and this will just be a little bit less soil, but the roots still have plenty of room to grow. Look, it's really only filling about half the container. We can flatten it as much as we can, snug it down there with some wire, and we'll be good to go. Is that going to be the front, where we don't see the roots? Or is that going to be the front, where we see the roots and the tree growing this way and then back this way? So the problem with this side is this big branch comes right at us if that's the front. And can I twist it a little bit? I certainly can. I can twist it more this way, just a little bit like that. Now this branch is growing way out this way, and I can cut a couple of these front ones off. Now we don't have to get rid of any big branches yet. It kind of swoops away from us, and then it comes back up and wants to come back towards us. So right here, it swoops away and comes back up. I've mentioned in recent videos, and if I haven't, I'll mention it again because it's something that I'm striving to do in the future, is I love going to the Minnesota North Shore, the North Shore of past Duluth, Minnesota, the Superior Hiking Trail, and there's roots exposed everywhere. And from all the hiking and the runoff from the water and the creek areas and the deep gorges, there's trees hanging off edges and roots just everywhere. I love that look. So I don't mind these roots right here. And if I could sneak a rock in here, just a little rock, that would even be like it's growing over a rock, which is kind of cool. So I don't mind that root section. A lot of people are going to probably cut those roots off. I'm not prepared to do that this year. I'm going to make sure it survives this year, and I'm going to wait. Now this as the front certainly can be used as the front, but everything's growing back this way towards me now and away from you, almost everything. But it's got a really nice curve. You can see the tree goes this way and goes this way. You can see that curve pretty well. Not too bad. I probably would cut this guy off right here, so you can see that branch curl around. Great movement, great movement. So here's the thing. At this stage of the bonsai, it really doesn't matter what the front is for me on this tree because both could work. So I'm going to go with my initial thought. If I'm going to have this because I like the root structure, I might squeeze a rock underneath there if I have the right size, and then we'll just see. And then when you spin the tree around, it'll still look pretty cool from the back or the front. And next year or the year after, when I repot it, I might change it completely. So with that in mind and a slight twist, I got this big main root right here. So I'm gonna wanna put a wire from here to here to get that nice and strong. And then I'll probably bring one from the side to side here and kind of secure that back side here. So what I like about this particular pot is it has all these little wire holes in here. It'll help with drainage a little bit, but you can put your wire anywhere you need to, so that's fantastic. So I've got two sizes of rocks. I've got my medium and my large, and I'm gonna go ahead and put a layer of large on the bottom for better drainage. So this is what they often call as the drainage layer. So less of the fine elements of the soil get down to those drain holes, but more water can pass through freely. It's just one layer of the coarse rock. If I put this on right now, I'm already standing about as high as I want to be, not too much higher, right? But I will go ahead and make one more final prune of the bottom. I've got a root sticking up right here. I got this curly one right here. And because I know there's room underneath, I'm gonna put that wire underneath. Before we do that, I'm gonna get my medium-sized soil and I'm gonna make my mound. Get that in place, and I'm gonna try to feed this front wire through this root. And though you won't be able to see it perhaps very well, it did go through. There it is, right there. It's gonna come to this guy right here. And we're gonna, by hand, give it a couple of cranks. Okay. I'm gonna cut off the extra already that I know I don't need. And then when you grab the wire, you grab and pull it up and twist it. Up and twist it. The first wire wraps here, comes back around here. I can hold my tree from the base. It's not moving at all. Got this extra wire for a little extra support, so we're going to bring that around the back side like this. I got room around the back side. And we're going to bring these together with the hands first. I'm going to cut off that extra. Hold the tree down, I'm going to grab the wire and pull and twist. Pull up and twist. Three or four, maybe 5 turns. This tree is not going anywhere. Super nice. Now before I go too crazy with the soil, let me see what I just did. So here's what happens when you go too fast. It's kind of in the center, and this branch isn't twisted like I wanted it to be twisted. So let me see if I can twist it by just movement. Lift up these two wire points just a little bit and twist. So I was able to open it up more like I wanted to, having this branch over here. Good. The only problem with that twist is the root then comes more towards us. I don't want it to be right at us, so I think we'll leave it there for today. the soil in there. Let's go ahead and make sure we poke the old chopstick in there. We want to get underneath some of that root structure and force some of those rocks down low, covering those air pockets. So we have a good balance of water and oxygen. So as you shake the stick, those smaller pieces go falling down into the base of this tree. There we go. The tree is a little bit more front than I'd like it, but then as I told you before, if you spin it around, the backside doesn't look so bad. So we want this to just survive this year and grow massive, stay alive. Got some water from the cabin cold frame. I keep all my jugs in there so there's more ability to have less fluctuation in the heat in there. A lot of people put 5-gallon buckets in there, leave them just open. And we're getting some drainage. So one of the challenges when you repot a tree, and of course it's different with every species, but is knowing how much roots to keep and then how much of the canopy to keep. So one of the really safest ways to think about this is to realize that usually what happens down below is kind of mirrored up above, especially as trees get more ramified and older. And so you've got a structure here, you'll have a structure down there. So if you cut a whole bunch of roots and then do nothing to the top and it starts to photosynthesize, there's way too much green on here, the root structure might not be able to support it. So we should cut back some. And the opposite can be true as well. If you cut back all the foliage on some species and you've got all kinds of roots there but nothing's photosynthesizing, the photosynthesis process is not sending all the stuff down to the roots to go back up and back and down, and all the process doesn't work, right? So we're going to try to strike a balance. I got rid of at least 50% of the roots here. But I already trimmed this tree last fall. I got rid of some of the big gnarly stuff. So it already has less foliage than the root system supported last year. So I don't have to go crazy with this. But again, we're going to focus on the branches that we just don't need. There's this really cute little red growth right there. It's going straight down from the front here, from the back actually here. We certainly don't need that branch. As you look at the front, we've got this guy right here and this guy right here growing right up towards us. Right in our face. So let's go ahead and come in here with the concaves and cut that off. Let's cut this one off. All right. So this thing's back budding so profusely. Look right here. There's a bud right back here for this branch way out here. All these little branches in here. Back budding tremendously. This branch goes straight down almost. It's gone. So I got these two branches right here. This one's growing right at the camera from this really interesting spot back here. This one's just too low. I don't need it. And then if you look carefully underneath here, there's a couple little ones there, just little tiny little buggers. Let's go ahead and clean those out. I'll take my glasses off for this one. Yeah, there's a couple new little ones in there too, which is good to see. The reason why it's good to see is because we know this tree is a good back budder. These Cotoneasters, when I've seen them, man, do they just grow. This guy right here, there's even a bud right back here. This little guy right here. I don't need him. I don't need him. Alright. See the branch right here? Nice close-up for you. Main branch going this way. This is growing straight up in the air. That down there is going to the right. Right next to it's going to the left right here. There's one underneath it right there. There's this guy coming over here. super, super messy section in there, right? So I'm going to clean all that up right now. That section was right in here. All of these branches, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a couple growing up. There's just so much back here. Actually inside, which I couldn't show you on the close-up, this one going straight up here has 1, 2 buds on the inside in that armpit area. There's a lot of growth in there. I've got this and this growing here where I can get rid of this in the middle. And there's an old cut right there. So I'm going to go there and make these two more the top shape. This one is super long up here, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Leaves these 3 for right now. These 2 are in the exact same spot. I will take the back one off so you don't see the scar now, or maybe even later. I'm going to clean out this bulge a little bit here. So now there, this branch now has these 2, as this is like the new leader right now. If I shorten this even more. This back branch, now that I see it, if I just go ahead, I've got a thicker, coarser branch here. I got these 2 jetting straight at you, both of them, but this one competes with this one, so now I have this, this, and that. I'll leave that for the moment. Kind of straight down. All these buds in here have a chance to grow if I even keep this branch. Could be wired. We can make some movement into it. We can get rid of it all together, because look at how nice this trunk is right here. It swoops up this way, and maybe this is on the inside of a curve, right? You see it's on the inside of that curve? Maybe we completely get rid of that one. And in fact, I'm going to do that. See how that was growing right here on the inside of this curve? Now it's gone. Now it's growing on the trunk instead of on the inside of a curve. So I don't want to cut too much more off. This is going to be the question mark, because this is still pretty much in our face. It's thick. There's not a lot of ramification. There's not a lot of curvature to the branches. Do I keep it at all? Do I leave it for now? See how this guy right here is competing for, hello, look at me. It's growing back here, but this one grows more straight up. Do I keep that one? I will make it thinner right here. And actually, I'll get rid of this side, because this branch is growing up and then curves this way, and then we have 2 splits up here, so now it's not competing in as much of an aggressive way. And if I cut this one right here, actually shorter, I've got a bud back here on this side by where you, closer to you guys right now, it'll grow that way. So when you look at it from the front, it'll grow this way, we hope. Do the same with this one. There's a bud in the back more on my side. That's the back of the tree. Doesn't look horrible. Not at all. Front of the tree. We still have a little bit too much going on up at the top. What do you think? Do I get rid of this branch right here? Because this is kind of in our way to follow that trunk up to the top. This crossing branch right here blocks this branch right here. So in fact, I will cut it away. Now it's not crossing and blocking these other branches. So this branch back here is super gnarly and really kind of fun, so I hope that continues to do some movement, and then I can work on this other section. This part right here is the weakest part of the tree right now because it's straight out at us. It's pretty straight out. It's growing underneath this hollow section here. It's almost like it's a second tree that just shows up out of nowhere. If I cut that out and put a big rock back here to fill the void, again, it's a tree that's wrapped around a rock and started to grow. But do I leave it for now? We know right off the bat, though, this is just way too big. It just looks kind of odd. This one I can trim a little bit. So I have kind of this shape right now. You know, it's kind of a conical shape there. Cotoneaster, not a pine, but these two branches again are growing from the same spot. I'm going to cut the one that's growing more out towards front. So as you look at the tree, we're just a little heavy here still. But I've cut down a lot of the tree, more than I expected to cut. I could cut all these three off to leave this one going. I'm going to cut the one right at us. There we go. I just cut this side off to let it grow this way now. I think it's time to put the tools down. Let's just stop there. We've got it watered. We cut up a fair amount of this tree. We cut off a fair amount of the roots. I think the roots will support the foliage which is going a little early. I wish it would wait another couple of weeks, but it's growing. But we're gonna go back and put it in the cold frame so it doesn't get direct sun all day long and go from that real hot afternoon to the real cold nights. So we'll keep it at that 40-degree range in the cold frame, and we'll see where it goes. So there is the Cotoneaster, number one of about 5 or 6. Hey, there you have it, another edition of Dave's Bonsai. Thank you so much for watching. Click like, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Tell all your friends about the channel. Can't wait for the next one. So for Dave's Bonsai, hey, take care of yourself, take care of your bonsai, and we'll see you on the next one.